When I was in my training for yoga therapy, the program broke up this one class into 4 segments. And each segment we had to choose what in yoga philosophy, is a yama or niyama. They are the yogic equivalent basically to the Hebraic Christian 10 Commandments. The truth is that I stepped onto a yoga mat from over a quarter of a century of living in more of a typical Christian evangelical background. And so I recognize that even in my yoga journey, even in becoming a yoga therapist, and even in all the deconstruction of faith tradition that I stepped into, my paradigm or my lens for the world still orients to having been raised Jewish, having stepped into a Christian faith tradition. And I love the yoga influence. We focus so much, or the world, you say yoga, people think of all the physical postures and flexibility and the Instagram posts. But when I think of yoga now, I think of those 4 segments when I had to choose a yama or niyama. And for 3 of them, I actually chose the same one, and it was satya. And satya means truthfulness. And the gift that satya gave me, the space of truthfulness that gave me in and of myself, was to cease being afraid of seeing it all. In Christianity, so many times there's this Sunday smile. And especially in some of the spheres that I walked in, whether it was as somebody's wife or in a leadership position, the impetus that I felt to be something other than just my truest self played itself out for far too long. There are spaces where I'll just write a simple blog post that I think is simple, and it's just being truthful. It's just sharing the behind the scenes space to whatever happened, right? I can share a picture of a bike ride on Facebook, or I can add the story that I forgot my office keys, and by the time I was on that path, I had lengthened my shirt over my hands and was so cold that while the space of riding a bike and feeling strong in that arena, my body was experiencing such cold that my fingers couldn't necessarily close on the brakes. And that when I did get to my office and a colleague had left the door open and I did begin to run my fingers under cold water, it hurt. It hurt, and that I left the bike there at my office and called my 20-year-old daughter to come pick me up. The next day, I would walk to my office and bike home. And that's what I've discovered in all of my journey, whether it was deconstructing from a faith tradition that both as a woman, as somebody who wanted to see and know more than the rigid construction that religion could open up space for, even stepping on a yoga mat and being ostracized by friends of over 20 years, and even facing some very personal truths and relational realities that challenged me to the core of my being. And then this past fall, getting COVID. right? And living now with long-term COVID. The bike ride I took earlier this week is living within me. And it's living within me because I know what I know that I know that I know is that it's not the one thing that happens, it's what happens next. And what keeps happening next amidst situations and circumstances or hurdles and obstacles, and how you perhaps don't necessarily even pick yourself up and dust yourself off, but that the dust of the moment resides upon your person as residue, and it informs your next steps. And that maybe the next day, I live on a hill, I live in Southwest Virginia, in hilly Blacksburg, and I'm not strong enough to fully bike up. So my favorite thing is biking from the house to my office because it's all downhill. And so I walked my bike home for the most part. I did get on it several times. But those are the things you don't necessarily see on Instagram or Facebook, right? I love photography. I love angles and lights, and so it can create a picture. But I don't want to create a picture, and even as a professional who has a company, who wants to be successful, my journey with social media, and even my journey emerging from having COVID and living with long-term COVID, has dropped me even further into satya, into truthfulness. It goes far beyond not lying, and it goes into those places where I'm allowing myself to stand in a place of self-awareness and not shrink back from the discomfort or the uncomfortable edges, but sit with them. Sit with the frailties or the fears, the insecurities. Allow illumination to be upon my person and look into the nooks and crannies and really sit with the person I am and who I've been and who it is that I long to be. And, in some spaces, I abdicated that for far too long. Or I lived in spaces for me, such as motherhood, that I didn't even understand why the universe had that role, that task upon my person. You can actually, and this wasn't intentional, but you can see behind me, maybe not so well, but that's a picture of my 6 kids and one of my children's spouses on a day that opened up so magically that I even kept my younger 2 out of school. This was before COVID, and everybody was home, and everybody was together, and that day we went kayaking together. And it was amazing because I knew that moments like that, and this so wasn't planned even as part of what I wanted to share this morning, but moments like that don't happen often. And they don't happen so serendipitously, but that did. I couldn't have planned it even better. Guess even as I thought about this morning and social media and satya and truthfulness and being present to yourself as you are and how you are, me being me, I want you to take a moment. I want you to take a moment and hold the excellence of you, the beauty of you, the brilliance of you. I want you to take a moment and reflect on the strength of you, the tenacity of you, the capacity of you, the resilience of you. We passed the 1-year mark of COVID, and this year has taken so much from so many of us and changed the way we live, and even altered some relationships based on situations and circumstances. But in that, I believe that there was this edge to discover humanity and discover ourselves and discover to the depths that we can reach down into and emerge more. I didn't say better, because in some places, perhaps what we discovered about ourselves is more about a base component of us. You know, I was so angry last March. I was frightened, and in my fear, I was angry. I sometimes suffer. Well, I sometimes have PTSD even when I wear a seatbelt. Anything that constrains my body in a way that I don't choose can be a trigger. And when the mask things rolled out, I'm not even talking politics. I remember being in my office and being so angry that I wept because I wasn't sure that wearing a mask on my face wouldn't feel like a hand over my mouth. And I was frightened. And I was angry. And in those moments, that anger was so much about my rights. And this sharing of mine today is not about personal rights or societal responsibility or communal responsibility. It's just a woman sharing her heart. Because what I've discovered about some of my posts lately is that whether it will be sharing about my Florida trip and getting stuck in Seminole State Forest, or swimming with a dolphin and feeling the closest to my auntie since she died 6 years ago. The places that, recovering from COVID, the places of living with long-term COVID, feeling fatigue and having to make a choice anyway, or having a mirror up to me because of what situations and circumstances were crossing the trains of my life, and making that next choice anyway, right? I learned to put on a mask. I've learned to take a deep breath. I learned to feel grounded and centered. And I overcame the sensation of a hand over my mouth and over my nose. And I took communal responsibility seriously. Again, not a political message, just what was in my heart. And so, again, I want you to take a moment. You see, this to me is the truest spirituality. Be kind to yourself, right? You know, we're told sometimes, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, 3 things. What does God require of humanity? Mercy, justice, and humility. Or faith, love, right? Hope. 3 things. Boils down to, while the words are different, the heartbeat of them are the same. And so today, touch those things for yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be merciful toward yourself. Love, find love and appreciation for your strengths. Find mercy for those growing edges or those weaknesses or shadowy places. Find hope for yourself. Listen to your own being. Take a deeper breath. Allow yourself to experience those spaces of truthfulness and not shy away from them. Not shy away from the discomfort or the edges, but to take a longer breath and allow the sensation and expression and emotion to reverberate within your being as to bring change. And so maybe we do that together as I close this out. Just however your body is situated, standing, sitting, movement, just bring some intentionality into your physical person. For me, it's bringing the palms of my hands to my knees, rolling my shoulders down my back, lifting through the crown of my head, closing my eyes, but you can leave them open, and taking a deeper breath in, a longer breath in through my nose. And then holding it at the top of it and taking a long exhale. And perhaps that's what we need as we touch past a year marker of when our lives changed with COVID. Perhaps we need a longer breath in and a longer exhale out to release whatever it is we're carrying. Guilt, shame, sadness, sorrow, regret. Perhaps we need a deeper, longer breath in to let ourselves feel the hope that there is a next breath, and to touch those places personally for ourselves and corporately together. You know, Mongoliso is the name of a company I formed, and it is Zulu for you are an amazement. And that is my heart, I hope, my intention in regards to the way I see you and the way that I see others. And so I wish you an amazing moment. And sometimes those amazing moments, most times, those amazing moments are found in the mundane, day-to-day, nitty-gritty, when we discover that we can do something, or we make peace with something we can't do, or we smile at a stranger, or pay for someone's coffee, or we just take a moment of quiet reflection. To take a day, take a moment, take a breath, and just be today.